This pathetic delinquent loser is getting chased by some nightmare fuel monsters. He doesn't know what these creatures are, but one of their attacks nearly sends him to meet his maker, so he books it like his life depends on it, which it totally does. Just when he thinks he's about to become Monster Chow, this goddess-level girl yanks him behind a massive rock and saves his poor soul. After a few seconds that feel like an eternity, it seems like the monsters have given up and wandered off. The boy thanks her, then he notices a tiny creature peeking out from her attire, and she starts laughing. Embarrassed, the boy blurts out that he wasn't scared, which is definitely a lie. In fact, this absolute legend even starts bragging that he could have totally demolished those monsters if he hadn't been banged up like a discount action figure, which is honestly peak delusional confidence. The girl jokingly says she'll wait for him to save her next time and winks at him. With the kind of courage that only comes from dream logic, Takeru grabs her hand and blurts out that he likes her, probably thinking this is his main character moment. But at that exact moment, he wakes up like some cruel cosmic joke. It had all just been a dream. Next to him, a group of thugs holding baseball bats are roasting him because it's obvious his dream had once again been about the same girl he's obsessed with. What annoys him more is that he hasn't been able to confess his feelings to her again. The group mocks him, saying he's taking the whole dream girl thing too seriously. Suddenly, he kicks one of them and insists it wasn't just a dream. The gang gets pissed, and one of them lunges at him with a bat, but he dodges and headbutts the attacker. Even with his hands tied, he shouts his over-the-top Takeru family motto, "Never surrender until you're dead." Takeru does not lose, and he's about to prove it. The attacks keep coming, but even restrained, he manages to defend himself. Moments later, Naruhi is cruising on a motorcycle. After escaping the gang, he quietly vows to find the goddess-level girl again. While riding, he spots the same small pet that belongs to her. Shocked, he gives chase, but just like before, a truck approaches. Takeru jumps to save the creature, but falls off the side of a mountain. Instead of getting hurt, he wakes up in an unknown place, and right in front of him is the very girl he's been searching for. He smiles and introduces himself as the man she once saved, but her blank expression shows she doesn't recognize him. To make things stranger, they're apparently on stage in the middle of a live performance. Suddenly, the girl's pet falls from above, landing on Takeru's head, causing his face to crash into her chest. She screams in surprise, and he's left embarrassed. In the audience, a green-haired girl named Shino laughs, thinking it's part of the show, until a blue-haired girl named Kazura says it wasn't in the script. Annoyed, she asks Seimei if this wasn't more entertaining than the dance routines. Seimei agrees, but since today is special, she decides to restore order. She presses a device on her hand, and a cord shoots out, tying up Takeru on stage. She announces it's time to bring order back. The girl slaps Takeru and tells him to get lost. He's thrown out of the venue. Wandering the streets, he thinks about how to fix this disaster. Ahead, he sees a child eating a kebab. Takeru asks if kebabs are sold nearby, but the child just stares, not understanding a word. Frustrated, Takeru enters a nearby store to figure out how to buy something. The clerk shows him a digital screen with the local currency. He tries using his banking app, but his phone is dead. The transaction fails, and he's thrown out. Angry and confused, he asks a passerby where he is. The man says he's in Joe 7 on Bojo Lane, something that only confuses him more. Still, he keeps walking until he reaches a district that feels strangely familiar, like the past. Suddenly, a public alert blares. A wave of black mist is approaching in less than a minute, and everyone must evacuate to the nearest safety gates. Caught off guard, Takeru ends up outside the safety zone with few other souls. In the distance, he spots a child about to be swallowed by the darkness. Without hesitation, he shields the kid with his body. As the mist consumes them, it feels like they're being pulled into another world. The surroundings grow silent, and people nearby collapse. Takeru checks for survivors. A massive creature appears, tall, savage, and destroying everything in its path. It begins slaughtering the frozen victims. Takeru blocks its path. The demon fires a powerful energy blast. Though badly injured, Takeru survives and tells himself that's not enough to finish him. Before he can recover, the demon fires again. Just before impact, a robot arrives and knocks the creature away, leaving Takeru stunned. The robot operators wonder how he survived the black mist. The robot instructs all civilians to stay put, but Takeru declares he'll handle it if the monster returns. It does. The robot insists he stay back. Inside the pit, Yuna and Atsunaga are activated. They unleash the power of the 5 elements. The robot counters the demon with a technique called 5 Thunders. With one strike, the enemy is destroyed. In the control room, Kazura recognizes Takeru as the boy from the earlier chaos. As the mist clears, emergency teams treat the injured. Yuna and Atsunaga exit the robot and approach Takeru, the only one who hadn't been petrified. Takeru insists they interrupted a fight he could have won. Yuna is annoyed, but Atsunaga holds her back. He tells Takeru it's impressive. He survived, but reminds him he isn't an Onmyoji. Before they can explain more, Atsunaga is called away. In the distance, the girl turned to stone in Takeru's arms returns to normal. Relief washes over him, and a smile appears. Takeru wanders the streets still confused, but he feels lighter inside, remembering the Takeru family motto, never think too hard on an empty stomach. At that moment, the girl from his dreams appears again, irritated after realizing he was the one who ruined the performance. She scolds him, saying even the Emperor's top advisor had been watching. Despite her anger, she notices his injuries and helps. She brings him to a quiet place, gives him food, and listens to his story. Hearing he passed through the black mist unharmed, she realizes he might be from another world. Takeru asks what the black mist and demons really are. A nearby man explains, demons are invaders from another world and the mist appears before their attacks. The girl suggests the Onmyoji might help him return, but Takaru frowns, recalling his experience with Atsunaga and Yuna. The man defends the Onmyoji, saying they control powerful beings called Shikigami, sounds similar to Shinigami from Death Note. Another woman adds, their leader is Abe no Seimei. That night, Takaru couldn't sleep. Stepping outside, he sees the dream girl dancing in the moonlight, her body wrapped in shadow. He claps and praises her. She smiles and asks if they've met. Takaru reminds her of the promise she made that he would become stronger and protect her. She says she won't forget again and introduces herself as Tsukimiya. The next morning, during the second day of the festival, a royal messenger arrives, sent by the emperor's advisor. He demands to speak with the person who caused the disruption. Takeru fears arrest. Speaking with Tsukimiya, the messenger says the performance was disgraceful and demands she apologize at the palace. Takeru admits it was his fault, but the messenger ignores him. Takaru tries again to take responsibility, but Seimei appears. Takaru mispronounces his name, but Seimei laughs it off and reassures Tsukimiya. As they leave in an air car, Shino asks if it's awkward dealing with someone like Takaru. Seimei gives a half wink and doesn't answer. Sirens suddenly blare another black mist alert. Darkness would descend in 20 seconds. The mist spreads rapidly, striking Tsukimiya's vehicle. Sensing her danger, Takeru grabs a weapon and rushes into the chaos, swearing to protect her. Inside the mist, Yuna and Atsunaga fight a new demon, while Takaru moves through the shifting terrain and finds the wreckage of Tsukimiya's vehicle. The Onmyoji forces struggle against a powerful enemy that warps across the battlefield using linked escape gates. The Shikigami suffer heavy damage and fall behind the demon's attacks. Takaru reaches Tsukimiya, now turned to stone, just as the demon strikes the defending robot, nearly destroying its spiritual reactor. Seimei arrives in the control room and demands a status update. The demon prepares to eliminate the Shikigami and Tsukimiya. At the last second, Takaru reappears and strikes the demon. That leaves Seimei smirking, now wielding a strange, powerful force. Takeru attacks again, but the demon intercepts and crushes him into the ground. Bloodied and broken, he lies still until his wounds vanish. He stands again. As the demon charges a new attack, Takaru again recalls his useless family motto, never surrender until you're dead, and even when you're dead, never surrender. With those words in mind, he runs into the blast and counters with a punch. At the moment of impact, his body transforms, armor enveloping him in a powerful form. With this newfound strength, he delivers a final crushing blow that brings the monster down. Back in the control room, Seimei watches with a genuine smile. For the first time, she wonders if this boy might truly be extraordinary. Inside the mist, Takaru returns to normal and exhales in relief, seeing Tsukimiya safe. But before he can relax, the demon's core erupts and a mysterious gate appears, instantly disintegrating Tsukimiya right before his eyes. In the next moment, another demon emerges and stabs Takaru from behind with its claws. The very next second, Takaru wakes up, breathless and afraid, finding himself back at the exact moment everything began. Once again, he stands in the strange world where his journey first started, and it seems like he is stuck in the worst time loop ever. The episode kicks off with Takaru bawling about dying impaled by a monster while watching Tsukimiya get wrecked. But suddenly this moron jolts awake in a different place, gasping to find Tsukimiya alive and confused. He jumps up and grabs her shoulders with relief, but she screams bloody murder, drawing attention and making him back off. Uncle Wada shows up wielding a bamboo stick, asking what he was doing, leaving him confused. Right then, Atsunaga appears, using some hidden blade spell to pin Takaru to the ground like he's an intruder. Tsukimiya questions what Atsunaga is doing backstage, but the guy claims he was just passing through. Takaru, feeling the magic pressure, desperately tries explaining to Tsukimiya who he is, repeating his full name, Narihira Takaru, but Tsukimiya makes it clear she doesn't know him, leaving him stunned. Seimei strolls by with two girls, and they walk past Takaru, who's still pinned down, yelling at Atsunaga that he's known Tsukimiya for ages. Atsunaga thinks he's full of crap, saying he only scared the girl, so Seimei decides to check out the drama. When the trio approaches and Takaru calls Seimei Haraki, Kazura scolds him. Seimei asks if they know each other, making Takaru feel crushed that nobody remembers him, but Atsunaga tells Seimei to ignore the crazy dude spouting nonsense. However, Takaru keeps insisting he fought something in the black mist and got impaled. Tatsunaga clearly thinks he is drunk, so Takeru insists he made the Onmyoji fly with his bare fists. Seimei questions whether he's lying or telling the truth, so Takeru recites his Narihira family motto. Trust isn't built with words, it must be shown through serious actions, which is why he asked to fight an Onmyoji, claiming that would be the easiest way to prove himself. The scene cuts from his confident expression to him panting, while Yura, one of the Onmyoji girls, comments that he'd been there for 30 minutes and absolutely nothing had happened. Meanwhile, Takaru keeps trying to summon that little power from his fists like he did before, except it doesn't work. Yura approaches him and immediately greets him with a kick to the face, demanding he show respect to the Onmyoji. So Seimei makes it clear he's disappointed, but says they'll just ask a few questions and let him go. Takaru runs off distressed, shouting in the streets, but then he passes by a stage under construction and stops, confused because that place had already been built as far as he remembered. Then Tsukimiya arrives arrives and Takaru asks if that stage has already been built. She replies, "It's been a century since any stage was built there," explaining that the stage is built for every Centennial pandemonium and that the Emperor's chief advisor will come to watch the first performance. Takaru remembers Tsukimiya had said the exact same thing before, so he asks when the chief advisor is supposed to arrive. Tsukimiya corrects him because he mistakenly said companion instead of counselor like an idiot, and answers he'll be there in 15 days, which is when Takaru finally understands everything. He thanks her and says that this time he swears to protect her, but to do that, he knows he has to become insanely strong. That night, he waits for Seimei like some creepy stalker. Seimei asks what he wants. Takaru reveals he wants Seimei to teach him Onmyoji techniques, making Kazura ask if he even understands who he's talking to. But Takaru keeps going, asking Seimei if he wasn't interested in his strength since he defeated an Oni. She says his so-called strength was just empty talk, but Seimei agrees to his proposal because it took courage to come back after all the humiliation he faced. However, Seimei makes it crystal clear that Takaru only has 1 week, and if he doesn't show anything impressive, he'll have to pay for every time he was rude, so Takaru quickly agrees to the terms. Soon after, Takaru and Shino sit through the longest, most boring explanation from Kazura about Onmyoji techniques, nearly falling asleep. Takaru interrupts her mid-lecture, saying he already understood all that stuff and just wanted to learn how to use the so-called Shikigami, making her furious enough to grab a little doll. She explains it's a Godai, a spiritual vessel used for training, and if he really wants to control a Shikigami, he'll need to channel his spiritual power and make the Godai stand. She demonstrates using a divination glove, touching the core until it springs to life, saying he just needs to concentrate and send his spiritual energy into the glove. She leads with the little girl, telling him to call her if he manages to make the Godai stand, so Takaru tells himself he'll get through this in no time, but even after trying hard to focus, he can't do that. He keeps at it all afternoon, trying again and again without success, growing frustrated, but then Atsunaga appears. He asks what's making him so desperate, so Takaru says he just wants to become strong to protect the person he cares about, but Atsunaga touches Takaru's back with the divination glove. Atsunaga explains that Takaru doesn't even have the basic spiritual energy required to control a Shikigami, so to reach that level, Atsunaga is going to forcibly expand his capacity. Takaru says he can handle it and tells him to go ahead, but the moment Atsunaga activates the magic, Takaru starts screaming, but Takaru shouts for him to do it again, continuing to scream from the pain. Later that night, Atsunaga looks at a necklace while recalling Takaru's words, but then Takaru appears, sitting behind him and looking at his Tsukimiya merchandise. He asks if Atsunaga is a fan too, making Atsunaga demand to know what he's doing there, so Takaru says he doesn't have a home and figure he'd stay there, but Atsunaga reluctantly lets him stay so that Takaru will not go to stay at Tsukimiya's house. As a thank you, Takaru decides to cook for him, preparing a lot of food, and Yura had also been invited and asked what the occasion was. Takaru replied it was a gyoza party, but Yura remarked that it didn't seem possible someone like Takaru could have made something that good. However, as soon as she and Atsunaga tasted the food, they changed their minds, saying it was a true blessing which made Takaru happy. After a while, Yura left and Atsunaga asked who Takaru wanted to protect. Takaru answered he wanted to protect Tsukimiya and explained about the time travel and said that Tsukimiya would die in 15 days. Atsunaga declared that it wouldn't be Takeru who would protect her, it would be him, so Takeru repeated his family motto, saying he would prove himself through actions. After that, the two began training together in the training hall with Yura watching, and Takaru tried to land a direct punch, but Atsunaga defended with a magic barrier, sending him flying. 3 days of training passed, and Takaru created a kind of magical card that could cut through wood easily, making Atsunaga explain that it was the power of Rik, one of the 5 systems of the Onmyoji techniques focused on strengthening the body. Takaru believed he'd soon master that technique as well, but Atsunaga told him it would take at least a year, making Takaru worry because he doesn't have much time. At that moment, Yura called Atsunaga to speak with her, and outside the room, she asked how long he planned on helping that idiot and questioned whether he still wanted to be chosen as one of the 5 stars. Atsunaga replied that yes, he still did, but there were things to learn from Takeru too, so she said he had more important things to do, shoved him against the wall, and asked if he had anything to say. An alert sounded, announcing that in 60 seconds a black mist would appear, and Kazura reported that the mist had a concealment level of 3.6 and was considered moderate level. Takaru insisted he would go into the mist, saying the last time he used his power was inside the mist and there was no time to waste. Atsunaga unleashed a massive power and said he could only enter if he managed to do the same first. Takaru charged at Atsunaga but ended up getting knocked out in the process, waking up at Atsunaga's house. Atsunaga said that he and Yura had already taken care of it. Atsunaga took him to a place where the black mist had once appeared, explaining that back when he was still a rookie he made a mistake and left an ally to fight an Oni alone. That ally ended up losing the fight and dying in the process. Atsunaga explained the immense responsibility that comes with dealing with the black mist. After the entire week passed, Seimei asked about Takeru, but he hadn't shown up for training. At that moment, Shino sensed the arrival of the mist at level 5.6 this time. Atsunaga and Yura summoned their Shikigami to face the Oni inside the black mist. Then they entered the mist and found the Oni controlling several puppets to attack them. Yura charged forward and dealt with the puppets while Atsunaga Atsunaga prepared a lightning attack. However, the Oni was faster than light and struck back, landing a hit on the core of Yura's Shikami, severing her connection with it. Determined to sacrifice himself, Atsunaga began activating a spell that would cost him his life, ready to give everything to protect everyone as he charged straight at the Oni. Just then, Takaru appeared between them, summoning a powerful barrier that sent both the Oni and Atsunaga flying, leaving everyone stunned. Takaru showed that he could now handle the mist and, repeating his family's motto about actions, Atsunaga called him to join his Shikimai, and as everyone watched, Takaru managed to alter the structure of the Shikigami, transforming it into something awesome. Together, they attacked the Oni and struck it head-on, completely destroying it, and at that moment, Takaru looked at Seimei and asked if he was watching, making Seimei simply smile. After the battle, they all regrouped with Seimei, Ura, and the others, so Takaru told everyone that he would do everything in his power to protect Tsukumiya. Hearing that Seimei offered him to join the Onmyoji group, the next day, Kajiki and Iruka meet Takaru for the first time. Kajiki watches Takaru struggle with the God-Eye spiritual training doll and bluntly states that someone who can't even handle basic practice has no chance against them. Iruka immediately scolds his companion, reminding him they should be kind to those who are weaker and less experienced. Takaru feels challenged by the comment, stomps his foot confidently, and tells Kajiki he has the face of a villain while asking if he's already trembling because of a promising rookie. This irritates the redhead considerably. Tsunaga warns Takaru not to get too carried away, but Takaru insists that whether it's training or real combat, you always give your best in a one-on-one fight. Elsewhere in Seimei's office, he asks Kasura if she completed the investigation. She confirms she used every method available to dig into Takaru's background but came up empty. Seimei suggests that maybe Takaru's claims about coming from another world are actually true. However, Kasura points out that Takeru has a bellflower star mark on his hand, something only people born in Denjihei and Kyoto possess. Seimei smiles slightly, noting that Takeru's mystery keeps deepening. Training begins with Atsunaga and Takaru piloting their Myo creature against Kajiki and Iruka. The fight stays balanced with Atsunaga providing support while Takaru handles the offense. During the battle, Atsunaga uses paper magic to blind their opponents, letting Takaru land a solid punch. The little green-haired girl comments that Takaru is doing well, but Kasura points out he only succeeded because of Atsunaga's support magic. Kajiki and Iruka jump back, drawing Takaru toward them before unleashing root-like vines. Since Takaru jumped to pursue them, he can't dodge. Atsunaga saves him by creating a paper platform, then sets their Shikigami's hand ablaze, allowing Takaru to deliver a flaming punch. The attack forces Iruka to detach from his giant form, ending the match. Yura approaches as Kajiki checks on the unconscious Iruka. She announces that she and Kajiki will summon a Shikigami together. In Seimei's office, Kasura asks if Yura switched partners. Seimei explains this is now a fight among 5-star candidates. The next match begins with Yura unleashing a brutal combo of kicks on Takaru and Atsunaga's Shikigami, finishing with a powerful magical kick, but Atsunaga defends with a paper wall that neutralizes the damage. Yura and the little girl realize Atsunaga has switched roles, now controlling the Shikami while Takaru provides support. Atsunaga casts lightning magic at Yura, who counters with a magic-enhanced punch, deflecting the entire lightning beam and nearly hitting the spectating girl, who just laughs at the display. Yura resumes her stance but notices Takaru and Atsunaga's Shikigami losing form. Takaru asks if training is over, but Atsunaga explains they were only supposed to fight Kajiki and Iruka, and since that pair lost, the session is finished. He leaves immediately, which irritates Yura. Kasura notes they still haven't witnessed Takaru's true power, leaving Seimei deep in thought. After training, Yura sits outside drinking water, clearly frustrated. Takaru approaches with Atsunaga, admitting he doesn't feel like they really won and asking why he can't use that black punch anymore. Yura stands to leave when she sees them, but Atsunaga stops her, commenting that she and Kajiki seem compatible, and he wouldn't mind if she wanted to team up with him. She takes this the wrong way, asking if Atsunaga likes Takaru that much. He clarifies that Kajiki's endurance would suit his fighting style better. Upset, she tells him not to hold back next time and to land the finishing blow, making it clear he only lost because he chose to. The night before the festival, Takeru prepares food for Tsukimiya and her family. Her uncle expresses surprise that Atsunaga brought him along. When Tsukimiya asks where he's been, Takeru explains he's been training hard since the 5-star selection is approaching. She asks if he wants to become one of them, but he says his only goal is protecting her, which makes everyone at the table smile. Takaru blushes when Tsukimiya says she's happy he wants to protect her, triggering memories from their past. He asks her to spend the entire festival day with him so he can keep her safe, but she refuses. Despite knowing the Oni are dangerous and destructive, she won't stop dancing because it's her life's purpose in this place, which shows her peak feminine feature. Takaru understands and promises to protect her regardless, even if they can't stay together. The next day in the training hall, Seimei announces that Atsunaga will strike Takaru with lethal lightning magic, but assures him that Shino will intervene if he nears death. Takaru shouts for no interference, and suddenly his ability activates, completely nullifying Atsunaga's lightning and healing his own hand. Later, Yura walks through the corridors thinking about how Takaru calmly handled the lightning she could barely dodge. She overhears Seimei telling Kasura she's considering betting on Takaru. When Kasura asks if he plans to make Takaru one of the 5 stars, Seimei tells her to keep quiet. She glances toward Yura's location, and Kasura realizes she's been eavesdropping. The festival day arrives, and Takaru joins the other Onmyoji, thinking he returned in time specifically for this moment. Seated inside, Takaru asks why the city gets attacked, and Atsunaga explains it's how the creatures feed, making the 5 stars role crucial in protecting everyone. The festival begins with Tsukimiya dancing, but Takaru suddenly remembers what happens next. He runs out warning everyone about the incoming black mist, but people ignore him and call him annoying. Atsunaga approaches as Takaru gets humiliated, but the warnings prove accurate when the mist alarm sounds and the area gets invaded. Panic spreads as people flee and a little girl falls in the chaos. Takaru remembers her from before and saves her this time, carrying her to safety. Later, Atsunaga tells Seimei that Takaru actually predicted the mist attack and claims to be from the future, suggesting they should trust his words. In the training hall, Takaru practices with the Godai while thinking he saved the little girl and might actually save Tsukimiya too. Yura arrives sweaty, demanding a duel with no powers, just physical skills to determine who's stronger. Despite being busy, Takaru accepts and they head to the rooftop near where the black mist will reappear. Takaru figures there's still time before the catastrophic event and asks why Yura wants this fight. She insists on proving who's stronger, and they begin. Meanwhile, Tsukimiya rehearses her dance while Atsunaga provides security, though he gets distracted watching her. A man arrives saying the chief counselor enjoyed her performance and wants to meet her personally with a special reward, raising naughty questions in Atsunaga's mind. During the fight, Takaru gets bruised while praising Yura's strength. She attacks relentlessly with powerful kicks, claiming her legs are the city's strongest. Fighting from emotional frustration, she admits needing to be the best to stay with Atsunaga. Takaru suggests she might be better with someone else, showing she feels left out and wants to remain close to him. Yura gets distracted in a kid attack and looks away. Takaru seizes the moment, hitting her chin and knocking her down to win the duel. She realizes her loss came from distractions and behavior that make Atsunaga not want to partner with her. Takaru shares his family motto about not judging by appearances, suggesting she asks directly about his feelings instead of assuming. Yura understands and notes that his family motto is contradictory. The mist suddenly appears, surprising Takaru since it's still morning instead of the expected afternoon timing. He runs searching for Tsukimiya, spotting her running toward him. They reach for each other's hands, but a magical wall forms from the mist, trapping her inside as she begs for help. Kasura arrives with Yura on a ship. Takeru immediately asks about Atsunaga and learns he's also trapped in the mist. Yura explains that only she and Takaru can enter. He agrees to take control himself since he must save Tsukimiya no matter what. She nods and slaps his hands in agreement. Inside the mist, where everyone, including Tsukimiya, stands frozen, their Shikigami appears and strikes an Oni just before it destroys someone. They begin fighting, but as they're about to land a punch, the Oni enters a door and teleports to a distant location. Takaru recognizes this Oni and its abilities. The Oni attacks by shooting fire through a door to hit their Shikigami from the other side, but Takaru dodges since he already knows this trick. He tries a counterstrike, but the Oni escapes and surrounds him with multiple portals, firing flames from all directions. Takeru protects Tsukimiya by taking all the damage himself, severely affecting their Shikigami. The Oni prepares a finishing attack, but Takaru refuses to back down despite struggling. He activates his ability, canceling the Oni's magic and charging forward. The Oni enters another portal to attack from behind, but Takaru thrusts his hand through one portal and strikes the Oni's stomach, killing it and dissipating the mist. Takaru searches for Tsukimiya and feels relieved, seeing he saved her this time. But suddenly, multiple Takaras appear inside the Shikigami, taking Yura out of control. The Shikigami begins attacking the city like an Oni. Faced with this crisis, Seimei decides to act personally, summoning his own Shikigami to deal with the out-of-control Takaru. Yura, one of Seimei-sama's 12 heavenly generals, had never seen anything like this before. The power from the last attack was far stronger than any Shikigami strike. The fight needed to end quickly to save the city from more damage. A powerful move was used, smashing the enemy in seconds. It was clear this was not a normal Onmyo technique. This was some secret DLC don't tell the devs kind of move. Later, Takaru woke up in a strange room. Tsukimiya-san was there, staring like a cat watching a suspicious box. His mind was clear again. Tsukimiya stepped closer, saying the promise to protect her had been kept. Time had been rewound like an old VHS tape, and she was safe. The destruction outside was massive. Word spread that without Seimei's help, the damage would have been far worse. Soon after, Seimei met with Takeru. The plan was to use his power in the upcoming Centennial pandemonium. Takaru thinks it's dangerous, but to Seimei, danger was just a background prop. Victory was the only thing that mattered. Kazura explained the event. Once every 100 years, the barrier to the Oni world weakens. The Onmyoji enter the Oni world to destroy Oni gods. Winning has kept Heian-kyo safe for 1,000 years. No win is equal to no city. Seimei dropped another bomb that the Oni had been hitting the gym for the past century and was now way stronger. The request was simply to become a 5-star. Later, Atsunaga learned about this and nearly dropped a drink after hearing Takaru wanted to refuse. Becoming a 5-star was the greatest honor, but Takaru believed the strength was not enough. Atsunaga asked about plans after leaving this world, but there was no answer. answer. The next day brought an apology to the townspeople. The truth about the Shikigami was now known. Seimei also took responsibility. Then came the DIY post-destruction edition montage. Both of them joined in fixing the mess. Seimei smiles, looking at the villagers, which makes it worth it to live for over 1,000 years, which shocked Takeru. Then Seimei got an idea to help control Takeru's power. At that moment, Tsukumiya popped up like a surprise side quest, with an invitation to the Centennial Festival. The mood lightened instantly. The next evening, Takeru arrived late and got to witness Tsukumiya's cuteness in a yukata. While aiming at a game target, the doll moved by magic. Atsunaga was behind it. Yura joined the group because showing up solo in a festival full of lovey-dovey couples is zero aura. A compliment was given to Yura's outfit. Instant blush detected, but the reaction was quickly denied. Atsunaga's spying was caught, but he said it was just a coincidence. Tsukumiya wondered if they were a couple, which made Atsunaga nervous. The group met villagers, who offered dumplings instead of anger, and thanked him for saving their niece. Later, Tsukumiya saw Takeru playing with a little girl and guessed that he had many friends in the old world. Takeru himself is confused about it. Anyways, the talk moved to the danger of the Centennial Pandemonium. Tsukumiya explained it was life or death for Onmyoji, but there was no defeat in 1,000 years. The excitement was simply the people showing support. It is like the locals throwing the world's most dangerous pep rally. Miyoshi-chan, a friend of Tsukumiya, came with news that the troupe would perform the send-off dance for the ceremony. It sounds like they are going to serve moves. After the dance, Tsukumiya found Takeru standing alone. She wonders if he did not enjoy it, but the actual thing is that Takeru is thinking about how he had so much fun. She asked him about the future. Tsukumiya learned that Takeru had no family waiting for him in the old world. His parents had passed away long ago, and his past was full of rejection. In this new world, he saw people who needed him, so the family motto, "Don't get used to being alone," finally made sense, so he chose to stay. The next day, Seimei announced the new 5 stars. Takeru was chosen. Seimei informs that the 5 stars fought in pairs, and with Atsunaga's control over the power, the two could fight together effectively. Atsunaga still felt regret because he had wanted the big Pandemonium showdown to be the tag team moment between him and Yura. On the day of the Centennial Pandemonium, Atsunaga explained the truth about the Great Shikigami. For normal Shikigami, the user's soul enters a figure. For the Great Shikigami, the combined power of all Onmyoji turns the 5 stars themselves into the figure. In the Bureau of Onmyo, everyone was ready to start. In the underground projection room, Tsukumiya began the ceremonial dance. Meanwhile, Seimei was in full charge like a final boss mode, gathering every drop of power for the mission. After the performance, Tsukumiya left the rest to the fighters. Atsunaga gave Takeru the pro tip of the day to get used to how the Great Shikigami moves, or get stepped on. Strange things appeared in the way, forcing a change in position. The Oni god came swinging like it was trying to win Punch of the Year, the whole ground shaking from the hit. Yura yelled out that it was the Riki Onmyo technique, the Oni world's version of a one-punch cheat code. Takeru, instead of dodging like a normal person, went full anime protagonist mode and charged straight through the Oni god's fist. The instant massive explosion occurs. The Oni god got sent reeling, looking like it just lost a boss fight cutscene. Atsunaga, bleeding but still in battle mode, told Takeru to fall back. Then he rushed in himself, landing a hit so heavy it could have been clipped for a top 10 anime Smackdowns compilation. A strong gust swept over the battlefield, hiding everything in dust. When the view cleared, the Great Shikigami was broken. The Oni began crushing people under its feet. Takeru ran forward but found Seimei standing in the way. Seimei called the battle a disappointment and said Heian Kyo's end had come. Those words hit like a slap to the face, sparking instant anger in Takeru. The ground was covered in rubble. Blood poured from deep wounds. Nearby, Tsukumiya lay still, her body painted in red. In the last moments of fading strength, one thought remained, wishing to do it over again just one more time. Takeru stood in front of Tsukumiya with tears falling like rain. The pain of failing to protect her hit harder than any punch. He felt weak, useless, and angry at himself all over again. A memory of Seimei popped up, and angry words followed quickly. Atsunaga grabbed him, but Takeru shouted and told him to go fetch Seimei. Atsunaga brought him to Seimei like a confused delivery boy. Yura scolded Atsunaga for being so clueless and trusting. Because of the clothes, Atsunaga thought Takeru was a proper diviner. Seimei looked at Takeru and asked who this loud guy even was. Takeru reminded Seimei about the time he said Heian Kyo was destroyed. Seimei didn't remember ever saying anything like that. Takeru explained it to him clearly, because that line will be said in the future. Seimei looked surprised, like someone had dropped ice down his back. Takeru then told him he would give up on everyone in Heian Kyo. Every person in the room froze like statues after hearing that. Takeru shouted at Seimei, asking where that promise went that he had made for the people of Heian Kyo. Seimei calmly answered that all he wanted was peace for Heian Kyo. Takeru ran towards him with his fists ready to fly like fireworks. Shino stepped in, blocked the attack, and smacked Takeru back. Kazura thought Takeru had been hurt badly, but he just disappeared all of a sudden. Now Takeru was gone, and the group had no clue where. Everyone searched for him, knowing he had tried to attack Seimei. Somewhere hidden, Takeru sat in a dark spot thinking deeply. No one would listen, and his words felt like paper in the wind. He wondered if the chief advisor had seen Tsukumiya perform yet. Suddenly, a strange black mist filled the streets outside. People ran in fear, shouting and stumbling like scared puppies. Takeru dashed toward the mist, wanting to protect everyone, but he collapsed. He He froze on the ground and was unable to move. A bright light came, and a Shikigami floated above him. Iruka and Kajiki arrived, and they left Takaru and ran into the mist to stop it. Takaru got a strange alert blinking with red symbols on the screen. The warning said someone was about to die, and it happened fast. The Shikigami exploded, shaking the ground with thunderous force. Takaru passed out and woke up much later in a warm bed. Tsukimiya checked his temperature and looked really worried. Miyoshi helped too, bringing hot water and nursing him well. He had been asleep for 3 whole days without a sound. Takeru regains his consciousness and finds out that Tsukimiya found him lying in the street, unconscious. He asked her about her dance performance, to which she told him the chief advisor had called for her, but the team lied, saying someone got sick so she stayed. Takeru got to know why she didn't get caught in the mist this time. She asked him how he knew that she was summoned by the chief advisor. He told her that he saw it in a dream. Dihimiya laughed and said that was a strange dream. Anyways, Takaru realized her life was saved because the future changed. Because of his actions, things were different now. His heart sank after realizing that Iruka and Kajiki didn't survive this version of the future. Tsukimiya asked why he cried for her back then. She said he looked heartbroken when he spoke of failing to protect her, but somehow his tears felt genuine, so that's the reason she is helping him. She sat in shock as he explained the time loop. Each time the same events happened, but he tried to fix them. He told her about the destruction and how it always ended badly. She smiled and said the tears looked real enough to believe. Her kindness warmed him more than any blanket ever could. In another place, a funeral was held for Iruka and Kajiki. Sadness filled the air like heavy fog over the city. Seme heard that Takaru had woken up from his long rest. Shino asked why Tsukimiya was hiding someone like Takaru. She believed he should be arrested for attacking Seme. Seme wasn't angry, but his curiosity was growing fast. Shino reported that the black mist was back again. Kazura opened the screen and saw a strange warning appear. Kazura quickly sent Tsurubishi and Kaisei out to stop the mist spread. Takaru's hand started shaking again after seeing the mist. Fear crawled up like ants on skin. The next day, Tsukimiya brought more bad news that the Oni had won another battle and more lives were lost. Thankfully, Atsunaga and Yura were still safe and alive. Hearing that made him breathe easier, even just a little, but he realizes that the situation keeps getting worse. Takeru remembered Seme's warning that the Oni were growing stronger. The war wouldn't be won if this kept happening again. So, Takaru began training harder than ever before. Still, he couldn't step into the mist yet, not without fear. He remembered how powerless he was before, and it haunted him. He knew strength wasn't just muscle, it was heart too. Without it, saving anyone would always be impossible. Tsukimiya watched him hit the bag with wild swings. She stopped him, saying maybe there was a better way. She shared a secret that she had a rare dancing gift. Her power showed only once every 1,000 years, but even she felt scared before every performance began. She told him about a mask that helped her calm down. She showed him the Yasha mask that gave her a special focus and strength. Whenever she danced with the mask, something magical appeared in her. Takaru was amazed and saw her in a whole new light. She handed him the mask, saying it might help. Meanwhile, Seimei checked recordings of Tsurubishi's last battle. He discovered that fear was used as a weapon by the Oni. Tsurubishi was scared of bugs, and Kaisei feared sharp objects. This Oni made fear real, then used it to freeze them. Seimei figured out the trick. The next mist would bring the same monster. His powers were weak now, so others had to fight. He asked Yura and Atsunaga to take the next battle. Takaru trained harder than ever, sweat covering the ground. Tsukimiya told him to stop worrying so much. She said maybe he was thinking too hard about it all. She reminded him again to take one simple step first. That's how the strongest version of him would show up. Seimei's spirit watched them quietly, curious about Takaru's strength. A warning came that black mist was incoming in 120 seconds. Takaru told Tsukimiya to leave quickly and get to safety. He stood tall, thinking the mist was calling him out. This time, he was ready to answer the challenge himself. The Oni appeared from the mist with glowing eyes. Takaru jumped forward, ready to strike with full power, but the Oni smacked him away like a fly. Just when it tried to finish him, voices shouted from behind. Atsunaga and Yura had arrived to save the day. Atsunaga wondered how Takaru was still moving around. Yura yelled for him to stay focused and fight back fast. The Oni started using fear again, and ice formed fast. Atsunaga used paper soldiers to attack, filling the air with light. Takaru joined in and punched the Oni hard, but it froze him again, leaving him stuck in place. He called fire to melt it, but nothing changed. The fear returned, freezing his heart and stopping his movement. It felt just like before, helpless and cold inside. He remembered Tsukimiya's advice again to stop overthinking and to take the first step, even if it's small. Suddenly, something changed deep inside his heart. A power rose, like fire glowing under snow. The Oni raised its sword and struck. Everyone thought the battle was lost in that moment, but something happened, something no one saw coming. The game wasn't over, it had only just begun. Takaru stood strong, ready to fight again with new strength. The real battle had finally started, and there was no turning back. Boom! A blast of energy erupts. Takaru, now glowing with power, looks ready to take on an entire army of Oni. No more moping around. It's fight o'clock. He launches a supercharged attack, knocking the Oni into next week, but a fire-spewing butterfly enters the scene like it's auditioning for a villain role. Takaru spots the winged menace and remembers that shady guy Sime, calls him a creep and blocks the mental noise like a boss. The butterfly's fancy flames don't work this time. He powers up again, hits the Oni with a final move that literally deletes it from existence. Even though Seime's jaw dropped, Takeru's attack went clean through the sword. Atsunaga and Yura sprint to Takaru like fangirls at a concert. They demand answers. Who is he and what's with the glow-up? Takeru, dramatic as ever, says it was a crucial step, and maybe now he's everyone's guardian angel. Suddenly, random voices shout about a ruffian in the mist. Yup, they mean him. He realizes it is the time to run like it's PE class. However, on the other hand, Seimei sneaks over to Tsukumiya. She invites him home for tea, where he drops a bomb that he wants her troupe to handle the dance for the Centennial pandemonium. Her eyes sparkle like someone just said unlimited cake, but he's got another topic about Takaru's mysterious powers. Seimei gets all serious, asking how much Tsukumiya knows about Takaru's time warping powers. She gasps, is he safe? He told her that he is not just safe, he's now a tank in battle. Seimei suspects the mask she gave him might be the cheat code, but Tsukumiya laughs, says it's just a childhood keepsake, nothing magical. Then Seimei says the magic words, world whittle, but Tsukumiya does not have any idea about it, so she tilts her head like a confused puppy. He grabs her hand, and boom, she faints. Truth divination kicks in. The first question he asks her is about her name. Nailed it. The second one is about how long she's known Takaru. She answers him that about 6 days, as she found him injured on Badai Street. The third one, what's world whittle? She's blank as a whiteboard. Takeru busts in like a hero from stage left. Takeru casts Scattering Blossoms and vanishes faster than homework excuses. Tsukumiya wakes up, says she's the chosen dancer now. She's overjoyed, like winning a lifetime supply of sparkles. Later, she gives him the report on what happened, although she only remembers the dance talk, and the rest is a total blank. Takeru's spidey senses tingle, and he finds Seimei super soothes, tells her Seimei is untrustworthy. She tells Takeru that she has heard rumors about Seimei that he does creepy science stuff. Also, weirdly, the Black Mist and this pandemonium party started after he got promoted. Takaru says to stay away from Seimei. She says it's easy for him to say, but she's the dancer now. But she's confident Takaru's awakened power will protect her. She thanks the mask. He feels warm and fuzzy. He calls it Yasha power. Holds his hand, throws a charm for extra safety. Elsewhere, Seimei drafts his MVPs, Yura and Atsunaga, 5-star warriors with cool hair and cooler powers. Meanwhile, Takaru goes full ninja and hides in Atsunaga's house like a cat. When Atsunaga returns, he is surprised to see that Takaru has made dinner. Atsunaga says, no thanks, until he sees the food. His mouth seems like a waterfall. Takaru drops a bomb. He shows Tsukumiya's hair tie and says Atsunaga to call Yura if he wants to have the hair tie. Atsunaga's face freezes like buffering Wi-Fi. He calls Yura faster than emergency pizza. She shows up, suspicious as ever. Doesn't trust food made by someone with a rap sheet. Takeru reminds her they brawled side by side. She rolls her eyes so hard they might fly off. Still, they dig in. Food vanishes like anime budgets. Post-dinner chat gets real. Atsunaga asks if Takaru's time hopped through another pandemonium. Yura notices the bellflower mark on his hand. He's like, wait, this isn't a birthmark. Atsunaga explains it's a standard ID from birth. Takaru realizes he's different. Takaru warns them about the 7-stepper move the Oni god pulls. Atsunaga says it's not in the records. That's because it's a new DLC. Also, the Oni aren't the only threat. Minor Oni love wrecking strategies, but he shrugs them off like mosquitoes. Easy peasy for him now. Yura's still skeptical. Atsunaga says that anyone who makes delicious gyoza can't be evil. Logic level is the chef supreme. Yura doesn't know whether to laugh or lock him up. She chooses to eat more. On the Centennial Pandemonium Day, Takeru sneaks into Seimei's control room. Seimei reveals his master plan to open a path to the Oni world. Plot twist here is that he's the only one who can. Takeru tells him that he will make sure that they win the Centennial Pandemonium, and Seimei finds it too reassuring, as he also wishes to win this time. Takeru, after hearing him shout at him and ask him what he means by saying this time, he asks if he is also involved in the time traveling. Seimei's poker face is next level. Takaru runs from there as it is going to be started. Kazura asks if they should stop him. Seimei cryptically says this pandemonium will reveal if Takaru is a savior or a chaos bringer. Meanwhile, the squad gears up. Atsunaga debates striking first, and Takaru mask mode activates. It's Yasha time. Atsunaga rains down 5-element thunder. Yura joins with flaming spirit power. Takaru battles solo like he's farming XP. The Oni god tries to activate 7-stepper mode. They break a leg, literally. Still, the power spikes. But wait, they get to know that it's not stepping, it's absorbing their hits. Kazura announces that it's not walking, it's charging. Seimei confirms their Shikigami allies are getting nerfed. Trouble brews. Oni god targets Yura and Atsunaga. Takaru senses the source of its boost and dashes toward it like Sonic on a Red Bull. He mows down Oni on the way, but hits a team roadblock. Time for a group knockout. Yura screams, Takeru pivots and rushes to her, reaches the power source. Something strange happens and his power starts shifting, but there's no stopping now. Yura watches as Oni god's power spikes. Takeru shuts down the energy feed. Atsunaga brings divine fire. Yura summons cosmic energy. They unleash the 5 yang spirits, super spell mode. 100 Oni were defeated. But wait, bonus round, Oni rush in like like it's Black Friday, Takeru's bellflower symbol glows. He attacks, but the Oni turns into Kajiki. More Oni morph into people. Scene flips. Takeru doesn't understand what in the world is going on. Then the Shikigami starts stomping on people. Takeru stops the squad, telling them that those aren't Oni, they're civilians. Seimei appears with the classic villain timing. Takeru demands answers. Seimei asks if Oni looks like a person, grabs Takeru's hand and sees no bellflower. Takeru blames it on Seimei's illusions. Seimei disagrees and says Takeru now sees how the world truly works. He explains to Takeru that it's whittling, which means that the weak serve as nourishment to sustain the strong, and that this is the natural order. Enraged, Takeru attempts to punch Seimei and demands whether he is responsible for this. Suddenly, Yura plunges her sword into Takeru, perceiving him as an Oni. Takeru falls to the ground, cold as ice, blood flowing from his wounds, confused about why all of this is happening. Seimei tells him that all his deaths also provide sustenance and that he looks forward to meeting him again. Takeru Narihira wakes up from a nightmare finding himself on the ground in a park. The awful future he saw in his dream is something he absolutely refuses to accept. An old guy saunters up to him and Takeru, who is completely freaked out, asks if he's a person or an Oni. He notices he isn't on his usual stage, so he asks the old man about the open-air stage. But there's no stage to be found. He then asks about Tsukimiya, a name the old man has never heard. The old man, convinced Takeru is crazy and creepy, quickly walks away. Waking up in a park is never a good sign. The fact that he's in Denji and Kyo is freaking Takeru out to a whole new level. Feeling like something is terribly wrong, he sprints to the marketplace hoping it's all in his head. But the layout has totally changed. The grocery store, the towering structures, nothing is where it should be. He spots Wada-san walking by, but Wada-san doesn't even recognize him. Takeru frantically asks about the troop and Tsukimiya, but Wada-san has no idea who those people are. He introduces himself as the owner of Wada's hardware store and says the only person he knows in a position of power is Abeno Seimei, head of the Bureau of Onmyoji. Takeru asks about Atsunga, and Wada-san casually mentions that Atsunga was lost in the black mist. The news of Atsunga's death gives Takeru a huge gut-wrenching shock. Talk about having a case of the Mondays. Takeru is completely bewildered about why the past has been altered. He spots a cat and on an impulse chases it down. His chase leads him over a wall and into a literal trash dump. He feels like he's losing his mind trying to comprehend what has happened to this world. Meanwhile, on orders from Seimei, Shino has successfully united the heavens. A black mist outbreak has been forecast to span 70 meters, centered at left capital Jo 4 and Bo 7. His crisis management skills could use some work. Worried sick Takeru is determined to protect his people from the Oni. A Shikigami shows up looking exactly like Atsunga. Takeru, mistaking him for his friend, rushes over, but the Shikigami attacks him instead. He manages to stop the Shikigami from causing more destruction. Yura shows up controlling another Shikigami, and Takeru asks her if the one he's fighting is Atsunga. Yura tells him to stop with the lame talk and just escape. Ignoring her, Takeru shouts at the two Shikigami to stop fighting each other. He quickly activates his armor flips on Yasha mode and forcefully intervenes, tying up one of the Shikigami and launching him into a nearby building. His fight or flight response is clearly stuck on fight. Seimei descends from the sky, acknowledging Takeru's unique ability to understand this world. The fact that he calls him by name leads Takeru to believe he has also been time jumping. He accuses him of setting it all up. Seimei quickly clarifies a few things, explaining he's not aware of any way to jump through time, and a period of deep thought has led him to conclude Takeru isn't either. But he notes Takeru has repeated the same actions over and over again, successfully saving everyone. As he's still trying to return to the past, Seimei asks him to listen to some facts before he proceeds. He explains that this world is an aggregate of many points that form a temporal axis with a present, past, and future. Along this axis are countless possibilities which result in the creation of other temporal axes. The mind-blowing truth is that Denji and Kyo exists as 100 parallel worlds, each with slight differences. There are 100 different Abeno Seimeis and 100 different sets of residents. He reveals that Takeru is living under the misconception that he's time traveling. When he was on the brink of death, a mysterious power simply sent him to a new parallel world. That's a lot to take in without any coffee. Seimei reveals that he can perceive Takeru's movements between worlds by sharing memories across parallel timelines. The Shikigami suddenly break free of their bindings and resume fighting each other instead of the Oni. Takeru realizes that this is all Seimei's doing. Seimei reveals the bellflower star in his hand makes humans and Shikigami from other parallel worlds appear as grotesque Oni. So all the Oni Takeru had been fighting this whole time were actually other Shikigami. He's left completely stunned, rethinking every single life decision he's made. The bellflower star's effect isn't limited to just Shikigami and Onmyoji, and even the crystals have a purpose. Overwhelmed by the painful truth, Takeru wishes it was all a lie. Seimei, with a strange sense of compassion, says he placed the bellflower stars on everyone to keep them from knowing they're fighting their own kind to the death. Enraged, Takeru unleashes his full power to attack Seimei, but he has seen it many times before. He effortlessly cuts off the source of his armor's power, leaving Takeru completely defenseless. He explains he does it all to create a better world where the worst possible outcomes can be avoided, so his whole life has been a lie. Seimei then grabs Takeru's hand tightly and asks him about the ending of his original Hien Kyo. Seimei reveals that he is the one who created all 100 parallel worlds, each an experiment to see if one can lead to a perfect outcome. The worlds have a lifespan of 100 years, and the black mist forces them to fight each other. This is known as the World Whittle, a cycle where the defeated worlds are absorbed by the victor. Seimei has no intention of stopping the World Whittle and will eliminate Takeru if he gets in his way. He admits to having sacrificed his sanity years ago and is now only interested in Takeru's unique ability to convert world particles and jump between parallel worlds even upon death. He makes Takeru his subject and throws him into a prison. Kazura comes to bring him food, but Takeru asks her if she's bothered by Seimei's actions. Kazura just avoids answering. A suspicious figure descends the stairs. When Kazura asks for their identity, the figure in the large hat approaches her, knocking her to the ground. They take off their hat, revealing their face to Takeru. It's Tsukamiya here to rescue him, and just like that, he went from hero to science project. The scene shifts, and Yura wakes up from a strange dream looking at a photo of Atsunga to calm herself. Kazura reports to Seimei that Takeru has escaped and his ID tracker has stopped working. Tsukamiya tells Takeru that he's different from all the others and she's been observing him. She wants him to join her in the fight against the World Whittle. Getting stalked is way less creepy when it comes with a jailbreak.